Welcome to a very special edition of Fanlight Zone Presents. My name is Ken M. You know me as the host of the ODPH podcast. I'm also the other chief here at FLZ. To my left, you're right at home. He is one of our featured comic writers at FLZ. He's also the host of 607 TWS, The Wrestling Show, every Thursday night on FLZ YouTube. Give a warm welcome to Rich.
Hello, everybody.
Woo!
We are ready to talk. And that's the first time I've ever gotten a reaction. So I'm even more pumped now than I was before. Let's talk some books.
Let's talk some books, but let's talk about a very special book that's coming out on Kickstarter, March 3rd. Bookmark it. You see the link that's in the podcast notes. You see the link that's in the YouTube notes. When we're saying this, and you can tell I'm a little amped up about this because the preview art for this alone sold me on this. And then let alone you have a kaiju story that has hope and heart mixed in, and it's really got a lot going on with it. Like I say, I was impressed by the package, and I've only seen just a little bit of it. So just wait till the whole book is unveiled. That's why you want to make sure you click on and get that pre-order in. I can talk about it a lot, but we have somebody on the line that can definitely speak about it too. He's been well known to be attached to a couple different Kickstarter campaigns in his own right. And he's also had the pleasure of working with Joshua Williamson and James Tynan, just to name a few of a very, very long resume. But this is the time he's stepping out from behind the desk into the writer's stage. So please give a warm welcome to the writer of your new favorite Kickstarter comic, Marcus Walker, KINGSLAYER Protocol. Give it up for Chris Yates. Chris, what is going on?
Oh my God, what an intro. I hope I live up to it. That is fantastic. Thank you. Oh my God, I'm blushing. That was wonderful. Thank you, Ken.
My pleasure. And like I said, when I saw the preview art for this alone by Simone Regazzoni, I was like, holy, I'm not going to swear, don't want to get banned on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I just literally had that reaction like, oh my God, what is going on here? And obviously seeing you attached to this, I was like, okay, we need to talk about this. So let us get into Marcus Walker, KINGSLAYER Protocol. How did this whole project come to be?
So that's a very good question. To kind of give you guys some backstory and kind of just, to set the table, as it were. So before I kind of was in this indie comic scene, I was actually in the comic entertainment scene about 7 years ago, where I worked for United Talent Agency and I worked for Disney as kind of like a media rights book scout position. But when I specifically went to Disney, I was the non-traditional IP person, which means I reviewed, kind of the geek culture IP, if you will, comic books, video games, board games. Could I potentially turn this thing into a TV show or film for any of Disney's streaming platforms for their showrunners, actors, writers, those types of things? And so I did that for about 1.5 years, and I think I reviewed like 600-700 pieces of IP, trying to pitch and do all these things. And after reading all those things, I kind of had this feeling of like, I want something different. Like, I'm craving a different type of story. I want something, a more classic hero's journey, or a Joseph Campbell, if you will. And I was just, I told my boss, I'm like, I don't know what I'm feeling right now, but I'm just like, I feel like we're missing something from Disney, like that classic kind of 90s Disney-esque storytelling. And she's like, write it down, like maybe you'll think of it, or you'll just, put in a journal and you'll forget about it or whatever. And so I was like, okay, I kind of wrote it down. And then when I wrote it down, I was like, I would love to find a story where it took kind of the Joseph Campbell hero's journey story structure, but took like the Jason Aaron hard on your sleeve type writing, meeting the Sean Murphy hard lines, but it kind of blended, Saturday morning cartoons with Japanese, animation or anime. And I was like, well, that's never going to happen because that's so super specific. And then I was like, oh, okay, I'll forget about it. And then some time went on, and then Bob Iger was like, hey, we're laying off 7,000 people and we're starting with your department. I was like,
oh no.
Yeah, exactly. That's the PC, that's the correct term. I way of saying it, because I definitely cursed, because you work so hard to get to that position, right? Of like, when you say you want to work in entertainment, you're lucky enough to maybe go to a talent agency or a production company, let alone find yourself at Disney, which is arguably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, storytelling place on earth. And so I just kind of had this moment of like, wow, I need to do some like serious reflection, because what am I going to do? Because like, I had gotten into entertainment to work on comic book movies. I loved all that stuff because that's what I grew up on, TMNT, Batman Returns. And I was just like, that's what I want to do. So when I had this moment of reflection, I came up with two things. I'm like, if I were to die, not to get too morbid, but if I were to like die right now, what would be like my two biggest regrets? And I came up with two. And one was I wanted to marry my girlfriend, which I now have done. And then the second was I wanted to write this comic. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna figure this out. I don't know how I'm gonna do it or I'm gonna give it that old college try, as they say. And so I kind of just put together this pitch packet. And the most wonderful thing is Simone was the only person I had ever hoped for and thought of for this project. And when I pitched it to him, his manager, because Simone doesn't speak English, kind of translated, and we kind of had that dialogue. He's like, let's do it. Let's figure it out. And then, so that was 3 years ago. And that was a lot of like start and stops. We pitched it to publishers, we got signed to a publisher, and then we realized that wasn't working out. So we kind of had to, respectfully separate. And so now we're at the point where we're like, you know what, we're just going to do it ourselves. And here we are talking about it with you guys.
So let's dive into the book, and let's go with the famous one. What is the elevator pitch for Marcus Walker, KINGSLAYER Protocol?
Well, it is an ideal match for fans of Ultraman Rising, Big Hero 6, and Power Rangers. It very much is that 90s-esque Disney storytelling that we're really trying to encompass. And Steven Maeda, the creator of One Piece, he kind of says it best, is that it's like a heart-pounding thriller that explores the nature of trauma and the unseen chokehold of the past, a rollicking family adventure with big fights and bigger feels. And truthfully, that's why he gets paid the big bucks, because I couldn't have asked him to write a better blurb.
I was going to say, what a co-sign on that.
Yeah, I mean, because when you guys have seen the pages, it's very much a blending of American style and Japanese style and mangas and cartoons and comics, and I'm like, who better than who could I have a cosign? Who could speak for me on that regard? And I mean, One Piece is huge, is still huge, and then I was just like, I think Steven Maeda might be a great idea. And so luckily, his manager, or where he's represented, my former boss from Disney works there now. And so I'm like, hey, if I give you a really nice letter, could you give it to Steven and see if he'd be interested? And luckily he was kind enough to respond, and he responded in a way that I could never have asked for. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't have written a better one. So I'm grateful for that. Yeah.
That's amazing. Like I say, just to kind of have that moment where it's like, you really want to get your vision out to the world, and then to have a cosign like that, like trying to put that in perspective is tough, but that's amazing though.
Especially for a debut creator. Like I believe me, I understand the position that I am in with the embarrassment of riches. I mean, again, this is kind of the salesy pitch, but to have a group of creators, not only Simone, but Taylor Esposito on letters, Antonio on colors, and then we have, some people don't know, but I'm going to keep pushing him. Ryan Clark, the guy who designed our logo, is the lead singer of a metal band called Demon Hunter. And he's actually a 4-time Grammy-nominated album art creator. And he was a friend of mine that I just kind of met along my journey. And I'm like, hey, man, I would love to work with you. Could I, figure something out? And he's like, yeah, like, of course. And then, the variant covers we have with Sean Murphy, Rob Gilroy, Sia Oyam, and Kevin Keane. I am fully aware of how lucky I am to be here, talking about all these wonderful people, because I feel like I'm the one not contributing enough. You know what I mean? I definitely feel like I'm on the short end of this.
Well, I mean, especially too, like we know that you've done work behind the scenes on comic Kickstarters before too, and now to get your time in the spotlight, like I say, how long has this desire to become a writer been instilled in you, would you say? Just not with this project, just like in general.
Yeah. I think I've always been a creative person, and a lot of people have told me along the way through entertainment and things like that, like, you're creative, like you have thoughts, you have ideas. Why don't you do it for yourself? And I was like, nah, like, I kind of just kicked that ball down the road. And I just kind of found myself at this point of like, truthfully, of like, if not now, then when? Like, I know it's kind of one of those things, but it's the truth. It was just very much like, I feel like I've helped so many people, some things publicly announced, some things not publicly announced. And if I'm going to help anyone, why not myself? Like, not that I've any, again, if I'm able to get an option down the road, like, yes, that would be a wonderful, but that's not the goal. Like, truthfully, this comic that we wrote is the goal. Like, I just wanted to write a story that felt like the thing I picked up when I was a kid. Like, I wanted them to pick something off the rack, or look at it at Kickstarter or wherever we are going to release it and just be like, this is awesome. Like, this feels like it was meant for me. And that was the entire kind of mission statement we had, is like, we wanted to write the book that we wanted to make. And for the people that wanted to read this type of story, you know, people who love mechs and kaijus, who love animation, who kind of love this hard on your sleeve meets big bombastic storytelling and action. And so to kind of answer your question more directly, I never really had a desire to be a writer, but I felt compelled enough to be like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I don't care if it takes me a month, a year, even 3 years to get it done, because I'm going to kind of see this thing through. Because honestly, it's something I had to do for myself, let alone with my partners, because when people start to read this and they realize how much of a brotherly story it is, because it is very much about Marcus and Caleb, and they're set in this world in New Honolulu City with mechs and kaijus, they'll see how much I really care about it and how much it means to me, because it very much is myself and Simone, and there are moments ripped from our lives that we're putting into this story that we feel, you know, hopefully fans or readers can relate to it in a way, and they can feel like they have some ownership in that way. So we really tried our best to, you know, make it something unique and special, because why are we doing this if that's not the goal, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's just something just to hear, like, especially when that spark hits, you know, you always have people that always say coulda, shoulda, woulda, and then they never do. And then they have that build in you and like instill. And then when it comes now to finally the opportunity is here, and, you know, to seize the moment or let it slip. And that's what I think a lot of fans are going to be picking up when they get Marcus Walker Kingslayer Protocol in their hands after they sign up on the Kickstarter. It's just, you can definitely tell the emotion behind this. And that's just something when we see a lot of Kickstarter creators, I mean, even comic creators in general, just when they pour that much passion into their stuff, it really resonates on the page. And like I say, from the little snippets we've seen, like, yeah, book is going to be radiating of it.
Yeah, I also want to add in there, like, just hearing you say what you said, like, it is really cool to kind of like hear you be like, anything else is basically is like a cherry on top.
Mhm.
Like, my goal was to put this out into the world. My goal was to make this happen. So anything that happens after that is awesome. And that is really cool. Like, I feel like that's a great position to be in, because at that point in juncture, you've already hit the goal. So then everything else is just icing on the cake.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool that you have that feeling about it, because I mean, the sky is always the limit, but at least, you know, the dream has already been accomplished.
Yeah.
100%. And just to add on to that, I mean, truthfully, the fact is, I'm talking to you gentlemen, this book to me, I'll speak for myself, is a success. The fact that I get to do this, the fact that I get to promote and talk about it is a success. Like, the book is done. Like, the book's done in a file. It's just not printed yet. Like, I've done the thing I've checked off. It's just the fact is, now I want to try and share it with the world. That's a whole nother thing. But to kind of put it on, like, yes, this book is a success. It's just a matter of how much of a success the fans and the backers deem it is completely up to them. And so, yeah, I really appreciate that sentiment.
And it's like he knew my questions, because like, it was a perfect segue, because you've worked on previous successful campaigns on Kickstarter, so this is not something new to you. But the thing is, being it's your own, you are the creator on this, and like I said, like, the cool part is you're coming into it with a little less pressure, because you said you know you're already got to the dream part of actually getting it out there, but now getting it into the hands of people. What is the biggest challenge heading into this project going forward?
Yeah, no, it's just printing and shipping. Honestly, it's just getting it out to as many people as want it, I guess. Because, you know, we've kind of maxed out credit cards at this point. You know, we kind of went the Kevin Smith route of making sure that we, you know, got things done. But yeah, it's just getting it out there and getting the word out. I think that's the hardest part. I mean, we tried to make it as easy and simple and direct as we possibly can for fans to jump on if they want to. I mean, to kind of get into it, our tiers are very mindful, because let's be honest, comics are expensive. They're averaging $5 nowadays. Streaming, video games, life itself is hard enough as it is. And we are very mindful with what we were providing or trying to offer for our tiers. Like, for example, our first tier is digital, because we know there's some Simone's in Italy. I'm not going to expect his fans, his family, his friends to, you know, maybe they don't want to spend a lot of money on shipping to get those books. So we just try to put a lot of thought and energy into it. And, knowing that we were going, to do it ourselves, I personally, and this is me speaking, $5 for 20 to 24 pages is kind of a big ask. Again, that's my opinion. So we're like, okay, if we're going to try and offer a premium experience and we really want people to feel like they're getting their money's worth, I think $10 for 48 pages is a better ask, because then you at least get a bigger chunk of story, because that's how we positioned it. And we really want to feel like fans got their money's worth, because times are tough. People are they want to support, but maybe they can't give as much as they want. So we have a lot of variety in our tiers. We have a digital for like $10. We have Simone's cover for $15. And then all our variants, we kept them to about $20, because I don't think you should have to pay $40, $50, $60 for a certain variant artist. Again, they've demanded it and they deserve it. But for us as like a first-time creator, we really want to make sure fans can get anything and everything they want at a reasonable price, because I felt that was important to us.
And that's amazing that, like, coming into it, that your thought is about the people who are going to be purchasing the book, and like your all of your thoughts, because your thoughts are get it in their hands, let them read it. I wanted to spread this to the world, but then to also like break it down, like, hey, yeah, it's expensive. This is an expensive medium, and we all know that.
Yeah.
To actually like think it out, like, how can I give the most bang for the value? And that to me is super impressive. And if you were on the fence before we even go any further in this, but which is the cool thing, if you were on the fence, that is a reason that I think is a good selling point for just about anybody, because like, and this is not shaded anybody else, but like going into it and just going, oh, wow, I need to give the best value I can to the people who are about to purchase this, is an amazing thought that I don't know if everybody necessarily puts in.
No, I have to say, yeah, I mean, sorry not to interrupt, but no, but I think that is something too, to be very mindful of the audience, and especially the economic aspect of comics, which, I mean, it is a factor. We can't deny it, but I think just looking at how you're approaching it, I think is just brilliant.
Thank you. Again, no shade to anybody else. I'm not here to judge anyone else for what they think is good for their Kickstarter, but I'm not a big fan of foils. I'm not a big fan of metal. I understand they have a place in everyone's collection. Like, I didn't really wanted to do t-shirts. Like, I wanted the potential backers to decide. And what I mean by that is I want them to get the thing. And if they're like, hey, we want t-shirts or we want this, cool, we'll figure that out. But like our stretch goals, we're hoping to do, upgrading cardstock, maybe add some back matter, add some more flourishes to make this a more premium experience. I mean, we're trying to do something for the pre-save campaign. So we're doing a pre campaign. And basically what that is like, hey, if we get certain amount of pre-saves or followers, we'll even deluxify the digital aspect of our tiers. So like, basically, if we can get 100 people to pre-save it, we'll give you digital versions of pretty much anything you sign up for. And again, I'll share another one. If we get like 150 or 130, we'll give like a creator's commentary. We love director's commentaries, or like the Criterion collection, so to speak, of like, I will sit down and I will basically tell you how I came up with this with Simone, and just give you as much resources and creative energy and output we can, so you can feel like we've thought of everything we possibly could with the current circumstances. So yeah, again, some other higher tiers we thought of that could be fun is we have some original pages that we'll be selling, and we'll be selling Simone's cover. So if fans really want to jump in a big way, there'll be some of those opportunities.
And the cool part about that is, like, just from my hearing, like, pure marketing of it, is it's great to, like, you're doing this as a first time. The next time, if you hear these things, that's when it's the go into that. If people really wanted the foils, that's when it's like, I think the problem is too many people try to throw everything at the wall the first time. And I think that gets overwhelming, because then you see the prices and how it goes. So I really think this is really smart to, like, start it off as, here, let's do this. And then if you want that, we're going to have time to do that later on. So that is really cool. And also from a marketing standpoint, from our standpoint, let's just throw it out there. This video is coming out a week before the Kickstarter launches, which means you have, when you were talking about pre-save, you have this full week to pre-save to get those numbers to that 130 and beyond, so that way you can make sure we get these content creators. So it's up to you watching this right now. Go ahead, get over there, get to the link, pre-save it, so that way we have it there.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to miss on this, especially with everything going on with this. But go into the story itself. Kaiju stories are always a lot of fun. Like, let's be honest about this. What is the biggest draw to you as a creator to write a story in that style?
As a first-time creator, they say write what you know, right? And so I very much wanted to write a story about brothers, because, not to air out my dirty laundry, but my family life wasn't always the easiest, and maybe not the most cordial. I mean, to be very transparent, about 10 years ago, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. She lost her battle, and then me and my brother very much handled it in different ways. I was 25, 26, and he was 16, 15. So there's a 9-year difference. And in hindsight, I could have maybe handled things better, or I could, was I in the right? Was he in the wrong? Was he in the right? Things are just growing up as young men with your, when you have a traumatic experience like that. And so I kind of wanted to just write what I knew or was experiencing, but I wanted to do it in a way that was kind of fun and bombastic. And as we know, kaiju stories usually always mean something, right? And so for me, my kaijus kind of represented grief and obviously death for the civilians in our story, but it was just kind of this grappling with grief, and like, how do you put it into a story that's entertaining and fun and artistic? And so basically, when I started writing the book, I very much found myself as Caleb Walker, the brother. And then by the time the book was kind of wrapping up and getting to this point, I was like, oh, I think I'm Marcus. But then as we started doing editing notes, I'm like, I think I'm both of them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and then I just realized, like, oh, this is just me and Simone kind of grappling with these life difficulties as we all kind of go through. And yeah, it was just one of those things where, also, let's just be honest, there's so many great mechs and kaiju stories. I mean, Godzilla, Evangelion, Gundam. I'm not here to say we're reinventing the wheel, but we definitely wanted to try and do something different, because Marcus is not a pilot in this story. Caleb, his older brother, is the pilot. Marcus he's not even like a hero in his own journey sometimes, because I don't know how you guys feel, but there's some days where I don't feel like the hero in my life. I feel like I'm just kind of going through the motions, and I'm like, okay, one foot in front of the other. So we very much wanted to try and say, hey, could we write a story where the main character isn't a mech pilot, and he maybe doesn't even feel like the main hero? What does that look like? And so that's kind of the creative swing we took. And we wanted to just, have big, fun, bombastic, mech action and all. So that's kind of the creative swing we're taking with Marcus.
Listen, as a big time kaiju fan, because I mean, let's be honest, I cover all different things, and I have since I was a child. I've been a big kaiju fan across the board. Specifically, Godzilla is my biggest love. But with that being said, it's kind of cool to hear like you bringing something different, because it is. We don't ever get the story of let's just everybody now they dub it as main character syndrome, and like we usually have that in books. You always follow the main character, so to have the main character actually just be like a normal, for lack of better words, a normal person dealing with life and dealing with all these big issues is kind of like a cool journey, because I feel like people will more easily relate to that. It's harder sometimes to relate to the hero that's in the mech suit and driving the vehicle and being the hero. It's easier to like go, hey, I have this job that I have to do, and then if it's called upon, you have to step up. But it's kind of like one of those things where that is a really cool like concept in its own, even in that world, especially in that world.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's ever pulled that off.
Yeah, like, to be honest, I can't really recall one that does. So the fact that that's the angle it's going at, I mean, that is just going to be something really refreshing for fans to check out, because like I say, we all love the kaiju fights. Like I say, that we're all big fans here at FLZ about that, but let alone to kind of add a little curve to it. Like, I think that's going to be something that's really going to catch fans off guard, which is great, because we always want to see something new, something fresh when we pick up a book. And I think this has definitely got a lot going on with it. They'll check that box.
We kind of have, with these stories, we kind of know, we kind of always say like, how did the kaijus come to Earth, or how did the giant mechs come to Earth? And it was like, I don't want to tell that story. That's just not the story I want to tell. And because when I first started writing this, I was like, how do I do that? And then I heard Jason Aaron on a podcast talk about his book, Once Upon a Time at the End of the Earth. And he wanted to basically write a love story, that kind of, again, I don't want to speak for him, but, it was about his divorce and how he kind of went through things, and he wanted to just set it in this post-apocalyptic world, but he never wanted to talk about the apocalypse, like how it happened. He just wanted to talk about the people. So I very much took that sentiment and like, I don't really want to talk about on this first issue, how the mechs came and how the kaijus came. I want to talk about the people and how they live in this world and this cast of characters. Like, how would you live a life in a tropical city where these things are happening on a daily, weekly, monthly, or, you know, how would you just live? And so when we were crafting it specifically with how we introduce Marcus, that preview page of Marcus sitting in the bus, that is the first page you see of Marcus, is him on his phone on a subway station. And he is flipping through his phones, and it's very much like, oh, there's a news report. Oh, there's a podcast. Oh, there's a commercial for a rave. Oh, there's a real like a cat video with a kaiju face filter. So we very much wanted it to feel like, oh, this feels like me potentially, or at least they see themselves in that. And so we were very purposeful to do that, because we wanted people to feel like this is in their backyard, so to speak, if that makes sense.
Yeah, relatability is a big thing, and like I said, it's weird in that world, and I'm really pumped now to read that, because I just want to see, because I don't think I would be the main character either. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Even in my own story, I'm like, I would definitely be the person who's just doing their 9 to 5, like flipping through, like, oh man, my commute got distracted because some giant tail of a kaiju just destroyed my, the route. Damn it. I feel like it might not be as interesting coming from me, but it's really interesting is the art. And of course, we've seen some of the art. So I'm sure we're going to have some, the graphics are going to be showing here, so people can enjoy it. But how was it working with Simone Regazzoni when it comes to the art? And especially because you are here in the States and he is in Italy, it makes it a lot, obviously in this day and age of the internet and stuff, it makes it slightly easier, but it also has its challenges. And on top of that, I want to know, what was your first reaction when you saw the first page of art come? Because obviously you created this, it was your story. When you saw what was drawn, what was that reaction like?
He's making me look so much better than I actually am. Like, I mean, truthfully, I want this to be a success, right? But if I could have a secondary goal outside of that, I hope DC and Marvel take notice, because again, he's kind of worked in the mid-majors of publishers, the Booms, the Titans. Mm-hmm. But when people actually get to see this book and it's in their hands, I think people are going to take notice of him, truthfully, because one of the things we are offering in our tiers is a artist edition, and we are just going to have Simone's halftones. Again, manga inspired us, so we want to kind of pay homage to that. So our artist edition is going to feature a black and white Sean Murphy cover, and that's the only place you're going to get it. And then, so you get to see Simone's artwork in its full glory. So to kind of say that is to say Simone's art is truly like, I wrote 2-3 sentences and he makes it look amazing. Like, we kind of came up with the story and I'm like, here's what I'm thinking. And you're like, oh, that's way better. Like, dude, like, why am I here? like you don't need direction. Like, I honestly, in 3 years of collaborating with him, I don't think we've argued once. Again, wow. Even though there is a language barrier, fortunately for me, my wife is Quebecois, and so when we first started dating, she spoke primarily French. She speaks French and English. She can do both, but I definitely had to learn about being more patient and translating things. So when I worked with Simone, it was very much that mindset of like, okay, what is he saying? Is this lost in translation? Is this a deep L error on their part? So to have that camaraderie with Simone, like, truthfully, he just blew it. He just knocked it out of the park. Like, I didn't have to do much. I quickly realized I don't need to get in his way. Like, just let him work. You know what I mean? Like, let him do his thing. I think, if I'm being really honest, I think maybe we butted heads once. And even then, that was just like an error, because I'm like, hey, Enzo, his manager, I'm like, can you clarify? Am I missing something here? And it was very much just like, oh, he means this thing because this is what it means in Italy versus this is what it means in English. And I was like, oh yeah, you do it then, bro. Like, you take full control. So I think that's a testament to Simone and his professionalism, because again, this is my first time as a writer and he just crushed it, for to be very succinct.
No, but especially to have that synergy out the gate. Like I say, that was the one thing really, especially, you would say, like, there's, little arguments, if you will say, or a little back and forth, but to really kind of have that synergy and not look back. Like I say, that is a real testament about like how much you both were on the same page when in creating, because especially too, being a first time writer, and Simone's done fantastic work to kind of, mesh both worlds together and have it be as flawless as it sounds. Like, that's astonishing to me, but that's amazing. Like, that's credit to both of you.
Again, his action is what got me, right? I mean, I discovered him through his, I think it's New Dakin, the Ranger Slayer mini series that was out. And again, his action's fantastic, but the pages he would turn in, for me, his emotions, his character acting is sublime. Like, to kind of give you a peek behind the curtain. So as we all know, the eyes are the window to the soul. And from that first page of when the kaiju is attacking the city, you literally see the kaiju staring down at a civilian. And that's kind of a theme that goes throughout our story versus like, how does someone look at death? How does someone, face their problems? In mythology, it was like, the snakes or the dragons or the hydra. And so that's our kaiju is our version of that. And so, as a young man, how do you face your problems? And it repeats throughout the book in different ways. And just to see Simone have different variations of whether, Marcus's eyes as a young child versus how he looks at as a 16-year-old, and then how his brother looks at situations and how his family, it's just that dynamic of how he does the eyes. I'm just like, this is gorgeous, man. Like, I can't wait for people to see that, because I think when people look at the art and they see what he's done, I'm pretty sure DC and Marvel will be knocking for him. If not, I will be putting it in their hands, because, I'm lucky enough to know people and to be at cons and be like, here, please give him more work, because he deserves it. He has earned this,
Yeah, his stuff's lights out. If anybody has not checked it out, like, you need to go check it. And if this is your first gateway into it, trust me, you're going to be blown away by it. And then to think about, like, for characters in this storyline, and I don't want to spoil anything by any stretch of imagination. I want everybody to sign up for that link, and then you be spoiled on the day it's in your hands. Is there a character in this book that surprised you from how you started writing him to the finished product?
Marcus and Caleb were very much the same throughout the book. They've kind of their dialogue, how they speak, how they interact with each other. That's kind of been mostly the same. I think the villain, I'm not going to spoil who the villain is.
Right. I don't want spoilers.
I think they changed the most because of how they interact with the story and how their motives speak in the story. Because the original, like, the first draft, so to speak, it didn't always come across. I knew what I wanted to say, but it just, you know what I mean? It was like, this needs some working. And the last pass, when I read it, I was like, I got it. Like, I know exactly what I want to say with this person. And it became a more, not mean, but just very, like, spiteful and, like, wants to just get their revenge. And, they're very much like, screw you for doing this to me, and I'm going to just raise hell. And so that became more clear to me throughout the years. So if there is an upside to having 3 years of time to look at something, if the first version of that character came out, I wouldn't have been as happy as now the version we have with the villain and what they're trying to accomplish, because, they're not twisting their mustache, so to speak. There's real stakes and real meaning to why they're upset and why they're doing what they're doing. And I think the father, James, General James Walker, because, again, I don't want to speak for anyone, but I come from a family where, my father was a sheriff, and God bless him, he was a great man, but he wasn't always the most emotive person. He wasn't always the most soft, let's say. He was very kind of hard, heavy-handed, very blunt, very obvious. And as time has progressed and he is as we all age, he's softened up, and he's, has that heart of gold, so to speak, very much how Tony Stark saw his father, of like, oh, he was just trying his best. And so, again, to kind of put my life into this book, James is very reflective of my father, but to realize, like, he is dealing with something so overwhelming, right? He is running the Kingslayer protocol, and he has got so many things going on. How can he be a father at that point? And so to see him be loving, but also firm, and very, like, authoritative, it's kind of unique to see that, because the first draft, he was very kind of like, not fun, hard-nosed. We've kind of seen that before with military families, you know what I mean? Like, do what I say or else. And it's like, again, no shame, but it's like, I want to do something a little different of like, this man is trying his best, but it's coming out as tough love. And I want to kind of show that in a way that is, reflective in the real world.
To hear about just that much emotion behind this, like I say, this is going to be one that just I think is going to really lock in readers first page, and then not let them go till it's all said and done. Like this, just hearing about this, the characters. Like I said, we only know about a couple thus far, so to hear the insight, it's a great tease about what you're going to find when you pick up this book. So that's why we can't stress enough. Everybody needs to go hit that save button now and sign up first day for the Kickstarter.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. But let's stay on the story without spoiling anything. Where does the series go from here? Is there more planned? Is there more issues planned? What is coming down the pipe for Marcus Walker, KINGSLAYER Protocol?
Yes, so we originally had 12 issues written. There was very decompressed type storytelling. And then when we decided to do this ourselves, we're like, okay, we got to pay for it ourselves. So we got to definitely be like, we have to be very mindful for what we're doing. Scott Snyder talks on his Substack of like momentism, I think he calls it, where it's like, what are those big, like, oh snap. He uses it, a different word, but like those, oh crap moments. And it's like, absolute Batman. We all know those are moments, where it's like, did that really just happen? So we very much kind of took that idea of like, what are those big moments we can offer in our story? So we were able to condense it into 6 issues. But what we're doing with our Kickstarter is how we wrote it. The pagination is that, let's say if this Kickstarter is a success and a publisher wants to pick it up, and put it in comic shops, we can break up these 3 Kickstarters into 6 issues. So this Kickstarter is our first one and it's 48 pages. So that's double sized, but it's written in a way where if you wanted to break it up into 2 issues, you could. So we have hopes to do 6 issues or at least 3 oversized issues to hopefully get to a trade. And then, depending on kind of reader feedback, if there's an appetite, if people still want to tell this, because we really do want to tell this story and see it through, because I mean, you guys have been listening to me, like I've gotten to this point, I might as well go all the way and get that trade so I can just put it on my shelf, but we do have a goal, and we're working towards that goal. It's more of a roadmap instead of a blueprint. And so we hope to do it. Like if this is a success and people want more, I mean, we could probably aim for one at November if we're lucky, or early next year. But it's truly going to be up to the people to say if they want that or not, because I can make this, like I said, and pay Simone, pay my team, and just have it for me. I could do that, but I really do want people to make Marcus Walker KINGSLAYER Protocol their own. Like I really want them to be like, what do you think? Like, what do you pull from this? Did we hit the mark? Aim small, miss small. Did we miss? What do you think? How can we be better? I mean, I'm starting to realize this attention is getting put on us in a very real way of like, I don't want the good things to get us, thinking we're doing great work and, are going to our head. But at the same time, we don't want to let, maybe some people with not nice things to say, we don't want to, thanks for the engagement, but we'll just set that aside. What I mean? Right. So to kind of answer the question, we do have a plan, and we hope to do that. And we were able to kind of leave Marcus this first issue on a cliffhanger that hopefully keeps fan asking for more.
All right. Well, like I say, it's all going to hinge on the success of this book. But that's why everybody needs to go out and get this. And now, obviously, this has kind of peeled the Band-Aid off, so to speak. This has opened the door for you to writing. Is there another kind of genre you want to dabble into outside of the world of Marcus?
Yes, absolutely. So the wonderful thing I've realized with this thing called writing is I love it. Apparently, I didn't know I was going to be so excited by it and having these ideas. And so I'm a huge horror fan. I'm a big horror person. And when we were picking our variant covers, my collaborator for my next book, Kevin Keene, is actually a part of this whole endeavor. So when I said I was specifically picking people, Sean Murphy, Rod Gilroy, they were like mentors to me along the way. And I was able to make a deal with them. Sia Oyam, I worked with her on her campaign. And so she kind of gave me a cover, or we worked out a deal for a cover. And then my friend Kevin, who I was a fan of his Gunslinger and Kingspawn stuff, I was just like, dude, can we figure out a book to work on together. You know, like I'm starting out, I kind of have this mech kaiju family book, but would you be open to maybe doing a horror book in this vein? And he's like, absolutely. And then we met and we just kind of hit it off. You know, we're brothers now at this point. You know, we both really have a strong love for metal. We're huge metalheads. And then we just kind of had that bond of brotherliness. And then now we're setting that book up. So to answer your question, we have a horror book that is, I'll tease it now. It's kind of a theme of, I guess not theme, but the comparables would be like The Mummy meets The Fall of House of Usher, or The Chief of War. And I will leave it at that.
There you go. Look at it. He's hitting all my genres.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, this is right up our alley here.
It's
So
all of my genres. It's
So yeah. So yeah, we're very excited. I think horror, I mean, even to just spoil something some more, if we're able to do a second one, Marcus's second adventure will definitely start leaning more horror in terms of not like blood or anything like that, or you know, explicit stuff, but it'll definitely lean into more horror themes where it's like, because you have a world full of mechs and kaijus, it's ripe for horror in all those things. So again, to answer the question, definitely going to be doing some horror books down the road.
And definitely, well, listen, horror is also huge in comics currently. A lot of great stuff coming on right now. It's a genre that's been embraced by the industry, which is awesome for me as a horror fan. So I'm always accepting that. And like I said, yes, kaiju do lead themselves to horror.
yeah,
I mean, obviously, if you were going that route, you'd go with like something like Shin Godzilla, something like that. So there it is led there. So yeah, like I said, you're hitting all my genres. So you're getting all my money. So that's good news. I don't know, maybe not good news for my wife, but that's good news for you. But let's have a little fun one here. Kaiju stories. Obviously, you like kaiju stories. Obviously, that's why you made a mech kaiju book. What is your favorite story? And it can be from any medium, so it doesn't have to be, you know, just comics or movies or TV, whatever medium. And then what is your favorite character from that genre of all time as well?
So it doesn't have to be mechs and kaijus. It can just be any movie, anything. Or sorry, I want to make sure
you can do anything of all time, but I would like to hear what from a mech or kaiju point of stand is your favorite, and then if you have something else you want to throw there, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think the most impressionable one was probably the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie, if I'm being completely honest. I think being a young kid and seeing, you know, the ninjas and you know, Ivan Ooze and all that stuff, I think that stuck with me forever. I mean, that got me into the TV show, that got me into, you know, the board game as an adult by Renegade. Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest one that speaks to me truthfully. And then I mean, the 90s Godzilla, I know some people have their thoughts on that one, but again, I'm a 90s guy. It is what it is.
fair.
Yeah. And then in terms of like just genres and movies in general, in that, my favorite movie is kind of one that's not really genre. It's kind of a weird one because it changed my life and I had no anticipation of it doing so. But do you guys know the movie The Adventures of Walter Mitty, or The Secret Life of Walter Mitty by Ben Stiller?
Mm-hmm. I do know the movie.
Oh my god, yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen that in forever. Yeah.
So that movie changed my life. So just to kind of give you some to give you the backstory on that, when I just graduated college, I was kind of aimless. I didn't know what I'd do with my life. You know, I wanted to be in film, but I was a track and field person. I was kind of lost, and it was my birthday, and my best friend's like, "Hey, let's go see this movie, Walter Mitty. Let's go see that." I see it in this whole like whimsical, you know, like go travel the world, go explore, live life the way you want to live it, which probably inspired Marcus in some way, honestly. When we saw the movie, I was just like, wow, like I feel like Walter. Like I'm always daydreaming. I'm always thinking of other things. Like I don't want to be in this kind of gray square world when inside my head where I live more than I should, you know, I'm thinking of all these fun, big things. And I was like, I would love to travel one day. Cause at that point I hadn't traveled internationally at all in my life. And then my buddy's like, let's go, let's travel. Let's go do it. And I'm like, well, where do you want to go? And he's like, no, you pick. I'm like, let's go to Australia. And to his credit, a week later, we bought a ticket and we moved to Australia about a month later. And I think we lived in Australia for about a year. So that movie, Walter Mitty, completely changed my life. And I'm always in hindsight, when I look at it now, it has its moments where I'm like, oof, that hasn't aged well. But the spirit and the message is what I take from it, and I always recommend it. So that's my favorite one.
That's a hell of a story behind that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I now it makes me ashamed of like any of my favorite things because it is not that.
No. But let's not make it all about me. What about you guys? What are your favorites?
Oh, so kaiju stuff was easy. I fell in love with Godzilla because of the SCIFI channel. SCIFI channel was launched when I was a kid, and they would play Toho movies because you know, the old black and white Toho films. So like that was like really where I fell in love with like kaiju. So I still have not just the black and white ones, but also the original colored ones. So big rubber suit Godzilla is you know. So that was where I fell in love with the kaiju, and from there, like once you open that door, you kind of go down all the other avenues. I missed kind of like the Power Rangers craze because I was just like outside of like, you know, doing that. But I do remember liking at least, you know, like the Zords and stuff, because obviously it kind of tied into everything that I like there. So yeah, that's for that. And as far as movies, like, well, it depends on, like, I think the greatest movie ever made is Jaws. So that's usually my it's an amazing movie. That, and between that and Alien, probably my two favorite movies of all time. So yes, I do like a lot of horror because Jaws is a horror film at the end of the day.
I always kind of grew up on Godzilla, like the films, because they used to always be on like channel 11.
Yeah, WPIX.
Yeah, WPIX way back when. And I never got into Power Rangers as much. I was always a Voltron guy though. Yeah. I love Voltron. I will watch that whenever it's on, like the Netflix version they just came out with a while back. That was, I thought, spectacular. So like,
they just announced a live action one with Henry Cavill, right?
I know. So I'm like, I don't want to get my hopes like too high for it, because I'm like, I'm optimistic for it, but I'm like, I don't want it to be, you know, like the old school Street Fighter film, which it was just like, or Double Dragon.
Ooh, Double Dragon.
Yeah, like I say, you know, when you kind of have those properties you grew up with, like you see them, you're like, oh man, what happened here? So fingers crossed for that. And then like for me, you know, it changes by the day, because like I love different kind of movies. Like I always like The Departed, or, you know, Goodfellas, or, you know, Animal House. Like that's always kind of like, that's my range where I go with. So it's like anything like that just depends. So I mean, if I gotta say something today, the last one I watched, because I watched it on a replay, was Terminator 2. I love like
Terminator 2 is amazing.
Yeah, like I say, so I have to say, like, that's in my wheelhouse.
When you say WPIX, the first thing I think of, as we all know, is The Last Dragon.
Yep,
Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon, because I used to watch that on that religiously. We were just talking about that the other day, and then which one of these days I will get my picture at New York Comic Con. I promise. I keep putting it off. But the other thing that was funny is talking about like old like HBO and stuff, and that's where I got introduced to canon films.
Yeah.
Hence why you said like high up or down, like, because now with the Masters of the Universe movie coming out, you know, probably I would assume better than the canon film, but also Breaking 2, The Electric Boogaloo. Shout outs to those movies. They didn't change my life though, because I can't break dance. So
yeah. Yeah. But when they leave the impact on storytelling, I mean, that's where it kind of hits you with that. So
question, Chris, not to derail it, just generally question, because you brought up Street Fighter. Do you have any thoughts to the trailer with all that stuff and all the reveals and the casting?
You know, I'm just going in with it like, I kind of treat it like I do the Fast and Furious movies. I throw any kind of logic out the window. I'm just going to sit there with my bucket of popcorn and just enjoy it. Like, it's just, it looks so over the top. Yeah, it looks so over the top. Like,
the hopes from looking at it is that they are doing this, and I don't want to say tongue in cheek in a bad way. I think that they are trying to very accurately try to go very comic book / video game style on it. As long as they stick to that, they're gonna nail it. I without sight unseen, I think that Roman Reigns was the perfect pick for Akuma, just by looking at him, and I think that they nailed most of them. Jury's still out on Cody Rhodes' guy.
The hair messes me up with that.
And I'm a wrestling fan, so I have to say, but I think everybody else, I thought they pretty much nailed the casting. If you're looking to do it as, I don't want to, I hate to say video game accurate, but like kind of zany video game accurate. So if they play into that and not try to make it such a serious film and play into like keep it that zany kind of, I think that this could be like one of those most entertaining hits that we've seen as far as that realm. If they try to make it super serious with the way that they've casted and the way that we've seen the characters, I think that it could be a long night at the theater.
Yeah,
that's just my take.
No, I agree. Like I say, that looked cool, but I say Cody's hair in that, like that was the only thing I'm just like, they messed that up. Like, in my opinion.
The only thing that threw me off was Vega's mask as well, because that was like the only thing that didn't look like the game. I'm like, why? Well, that was a choice. Why didn't they just use the classic mask, which is
probably for toys, so they can do different variations and toys and statues and be like, hey, here's this version now, like the movie version, then here's like the more accurate version.
True. But I just like, to part of me, that was like the part, because everything else looked, even like the hair was a little off, but it was still like in the vein. Everything looked, and then I'm like, that doesn't really look like Vega though. like the mask and everything else looked fine.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird. But like I said, I always go into everything with a clear mind, and hopefully it has, like, I vote most things on how much fun I have, because I've liked some really bad movies. I'm looking at you, Maximum Overdrive, because it's a terrible film, but it's a lot of fun. Like, if you watch that movie, it's a lot of fun. You know, it is what it is. You know.
Yeah. Well, Chris, we're gonna give you one more fun question before we let you go.
Yes.
Obviously, now you're writing. If you had the chance to write any character you wanted, IPs not an issue, publisher not an issue, who and why?
So here's the trick question, or here's like the tricky response. Do I say it, and then if an editor actually hears it, they're like, well, I'm never gonna give it to them, give it to him. So it's like, my gut says, if I'm at DC, I say Aquaman, because I'm a huge Aquaman guy. If I'm at Marvel, Jane Foster, because Jason Aaron, Jane Foster, she has a special place in my heart. And then if I'm going indie, I mean, I got to go TMNT. That has to be TMNT, because I'm a Leo and Donnie guy. I'm to many people, they love Mikey, they love Raph, but I'm very much like the Leo, Donnie, like, you know, dutiful son, like tech guy, leadership. That's definitely the role I always assumed. And plus, I'm wearing blue, so I would definitely have to give those types of answers.
It writes itself.
Yeah. I listen, as somebody who is inundated with a lot of TMNT as a fan, and because I do a lot of TMNT reviews, like across the board for IDW, I would love to hear that, because it's a great take. I think that the best stories from Turtles really come from people who are fans and get the story. And right now it's such a wide open world, because they've gone back to kind of like, they do have their side ones where you're doing the more children's stories, and then they have the ones where they're doing the more adult stories, where it's our age group who grew up on the show, but obviously everything's going to mature over time. And I think that they're really knocking it out of the park. So that would be, especially in the realm you're talking, it would be something super cool. And it ties into Kaiju, because you got TMNT X Godzilla now. So
yeah.
And it all starts with Marcus Walker, Kingslayer Protocol. We cannot stress enough, folks. March 3rd, that Kickstarter link goes live. Make sure you save it. You get that notification, and then go get this book in your collection. And if you know a fan that wants a great kaiju story that's got heart, hope, and action, this is your book. And if you know somebody that's kind of like on the fence about it, all you got to do is show them the preview pages, and they're going to be blown away by this. Like, seriously, this is one that is going to make a lot of noise. I guarantee you with this. Chris, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show. After this book is out, we definitely have to recap and break it all down here on Fanlight Zone.
Absolutely. And before we go, I just want to say thank you guys for giving me the time, and, you know, sharing this thing that you're building is really special and amazing. I'm always following on social media. You guys are, the reviews, the article, like, you guys are crushing it. So for you guys to be kind enough to share this with me, like, I just want to, I want to say it on the show. Thank you. I'm very grateful that you were giving me the opportunity to share it with your viewership, your readership. So I just want to say I'm very grateful. So thank you.
No, thank you so much for the kind words, Chris. Definitely. But like I say, mark the calendar. After this book is released, we are going to have you back on. We're going to do a full breakdown of this book, because that's how much we're supporting it, folks. And we hope that you can hear the passion behind this, and Chris's voice and our voices, to go get this in your collection. This is going to be one that you do not want to miss when you have the opportunity to go get it. So March 3rd, make it happen. So that being said, on behalf of Rich and myself, thank you for checking out another episode of Fanlight Zone Presents. We'll see you next time.